am I saying that I'm not comfortable being who I am? That power that I get from being affiliated with God, that's not enough for me, and I need to change who I am. I need to dull my senses, so to say, so that I could feel more comfortable in my surroundings. Is that that in a way is insulting the God within me. It's insulting my own self-dignity and self-pride. And so when Dadaji comes to me and tells me, and it's not that he tells me, hey, stop drinking, hey, stop smoking, but it's him creating that awareness of God within me that makes me come to the same realization that I shouldn't drink, I shouldn't smoke. And when that self-realization comes, that lasts much longer than any AA campaign or any other smoke-free campaign that's out there, because ultimately it's a self-realization and it's not imposed upon.
Are there any quotes from your mentor or a passage from the Gita that has been influential enough?
Yeah, lots, God. So Dadaji, what he does is, at the end of the day, again, going back 1954 World Religions Conference, he was 44 years old at the time, and he went in front of a global audience at that point in time, the first World Religions Conference. And he mentioned, sorry, the second World Religions Conference. The first one was 1902 with Swami Vivekananda, but the second World Religions Conference. And he proclaims to the world that the problems of the world are, the solutions to these problems are in the Gita. Dr. Compton at that point in time represented America as a nation. And so he'd asked the question, they'd all asked the question that, what you're saying is amazing, this is crazy great, but where's the practicality of it? When we look into India, or when we look at anywhere else in the world right now, is there a place that's following the principles of the Gita and that you can prove that, look, this is reality? At that point in time, he had to turn his head down because there wasn't. There was nobody following the actual practical meanings of the Gita and bringing about the social revolution that it was supposed to bring about. Instead, what he did is he went home and he started instead of just sitting in a chair and speaking, because you could speak all you want, but unless it becomes personal, there's no transformation. So he started going to people, he started visiting villages, and he went again like the rishis did, heart to heart and hut to hut, and he made those connections with people. And if it's, if it's a business person, then he would talk about stock prices and shares. If it's a farmer, he would talk about cattle and the wheat fields and so on and so forth, whatever it is to connect to this person and ultimately get this message of God through to him. And without realizing, 60 years down the road, there is millions, there's actual villages in India that the entire village has accepted this idea of Sarvasya Chamradi Sannivisto. They've accepted. And so when I see that God is a part of my life, I know that I owe something back to God, that because of that gratefulness, part of the reason why I earn is because of God's power, because God enables me to do so, and therefore part of that income should go towards God. So now it's no longer a little basket being passed around in my religious gathering. Now it's a personal responsibility that if God provides for me, then I need to provide back. And that providing back is completely hidden. It's not in the form of, here's a large check from me to you and get me on the press release, and it's not like that. It's because when it comes to this, it has to be completely hidden, because nobody should feel that, oh, he gave more than I did, or as soon as that starts happening, the entire purpose of that individual relationship with God, it kind of gets put on the side, and all of these other things, they become the main stage. What Dadaji does, the one critical thing that he does is every Sunday we have as Swadhyayis, we have a 1 hour where we watch Dadaji's pravachans, and pravachans is basically a discourse. And he'll take a particular shlok of the Gita and he'll expand upon it. And I mean, we're talking one shlok, for example, Anapeksha Suchir Daksha, Udasina Gatavyata. So this shlok is maybe 14 words or something in this shloka, and just one word, Anapeksha Suchir Daksha. So the word Daksha, for example, is just discretion, to use discretion. And it could be a very simple one-word translation, or it could go on forever. And Daji speaks about this for 30 discourses, the word daksha, and then the practical implementation of daksha, that being discretionary, having, so when you ask the question, is there one particular saying or slogan or something like that that really has made an impact? And I think back to all that. Every week we listen, and every week we feel energized. And every week we feel like, okay, this week, here's my focus on daksha. Next week, okay, here's my focus on daksha. It's the same exact word, but now it's a different implementation of the term discretion. We kind of, like we talked about earlier, about ahimsa, satya, asteya, these things, they're not black and white. And so having the dakshata gives me the ability to practice what's right and wrong. Gives me, and I don't know that. It only takes a person that's kind of a seer in our eyes to tell us the difference between the two. So if you were to ask me, if I were to take all of these things and just sum it into one word or one slogan, I would have to say that sarvasya chaham pradisannivishto, that God resides in me, is ultimately that which increases my self-dignity, it increases my affinity for mankind, and it increases my awareness and my gratefulness towards nature.
And can you describe a profound experience in your life that affected you with regard to religion?
Absolutely. The religious experiences are, unfortunately, there's a good part of my life that was just kind of, maybe being in the wrong crowd, being in wrong negative influences, wrong peers. A lot of my life went into partying and just, living life, or what I used to call living life. And there's a lot that happened in between the click, that I call it, the switch and the realization. I mean, going into the villages and seeing actual live villages where people are working with unity, where people are feeling like this is my brother, this is not just my neighbor. And because of that, there's a social unity. Because of that, everybody's concerned about you, about your well-being. There is no poverty in that village. There's real life examples of people that used to be like a fishing village, for example, in the coastal areas of Mumbai. The situations was horrible. I mean, there's no culture. They fish for a living. Alcoholism is abundant. Domestic fighting, so beating up on your wife, is common. If you don't, your manhood is questioned. These were the types of things that were happening. Economically, people's earnings would all be spent on alcohol and on just partying. And so to take that town where, government has tried numerous occasions, tried so many different things, but yet there is no change, and to convert that same town into now, all of a sudden, you go there and 6 a.m., the entire town is up and they're doing Prabhat Feri, meaning that they've gathered together and they're walking around the entire town at 6 a.m. chanting stotras at the top of their lungs to wake up the entire town to these Vedic vibes. In the evening, all the families, they get together, and it doesn't matter if within that same village you have a politician, you have a banker, you have engineers and doctors, and then you have farmers. But everybody, at the end of the day, when they do their evening prayer in that temple, everybody sits on the same exact floor. Nobody has a VIP section. There is no, because of that true ultimate reality, that God is the same God in me is the same God in you. Just because your vocation is different doesn't mean that I'm worth any less. And seeing that live example in front of me made me question a lot about my life and a lot about what it is that we're striving for in life. And to a point where even my group of friends that were with me, we all ended up questioning the same thing over and over again. We started reading Vivekananda, and we started reading the pride, cultural pride that we should have of where we came from. Whether it doesn't matter whether it's India or whether it's China or wherever it is, there's a cultural pride to belong to that which you belong to. And personally, that the transformation in my life, going from a person that never appreciated my mother for doing that which a mother does, to even to a point of threatening to run away from home and do all sorts of crazy things and get involved with gangs and all that, and the switch to recognizing that, man, my mother does a lot for me. And to have that gratefulness, to be blessed with knowing that, and you know, to see tears streaming down my mother's face when I talk about this, that means a lot. And so personal religious experiences, I'm sorry, there is no, oh, I saw God, or there is no self-realization moment. It's all about practical life. It's all about switching my outlook, and switching outlook on the way we do things, we see things, we appreciate things that we never did before. And that, in essence, is really practical religion.
Is there anything that you'd want to say to students who are just learning for the first time about religion? Is there any message you'd like to give to those students?
Unfortunately, religion has become a term which turns people off, more so in the Western world than in the Eastern world. And it has become a term that has become so alienated from our everyday life. As soon as we hear the term religion, we think that it's not something that's part of our lives. We feel that it's something that we learn about in classrooms, or it's something that we sit in a Sunday, 1-hour sermon for. But that's contrary to what religion is meant to be. Religion is meant to be a part of our lives. Religion is meant to be a implemented day in and day out, breath in, breath out, part of my life. And all that I can do is try on my own, for my purposes, to live that sort of a life. And as soon as you do, you realize a life worth living a lot more. You feel a fulfillment in your life, which is not possible when life is compartmentalized. To have dual personality, to have, be a student in one place, to be a friend in another place, to be a father in another place, with my personalities being different based on the type of people that I'm around, type of environment that I'm around. At the end of the day, I would ask myself the question that when I'm sitting there in church or in temple or in masjid, and when I'm looking at my God, my expressions, my behavior, is it any different than it would be if I were to sit with my best friend and talk to them freely, or if I were at a party? Would there be a difference in my behavior? And that, at the end of the day, is what religion is. It's part of my life, day in and day out.